fishing, it's in my soul.
Welcome to the Salt Strong Podcast, disrupting fishing entertainment as you know it. Prepare to laugh. Prepare to get to know fishing legends in a whole new and unfiltered way. And on occasion, you might even learn a thing or two about fishing. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
Why you should be incredibly worried, yet incredibly excited about what's going to happen over the next 6 to 12 months here in America. Hi, everyone. I'm Joe Simons, like diamonds, one of the co-founders here at Salt Strong, and this is Salt Strong Unchurched. Now, if you haven't seen this video of this Pastor Dana in his 3 dreams, I'll put a link in the show notes about it. This is kind of what triggered a lot of what I'm about to talk about today. And let me just share with you kind of regardless if you've seen it or not, it's a good reminder of what he talks about. So there's this pastor called Dana Coverstone in, I believe, Oklahoma, and he had a very vivid dream, as did I, that I'm going to share with you in a second, back in December of 2019. And now he's had a couple other dreams that he's kind of thrown on top of it. And the first dream that he did share with people in his congregation, I'll just give you the big picture. This dream, once again, in December of 2019, had some fingers on a calendar, basically double tapping the month of March. And what he saw after that was some type of pandemic, like something bad was essentially happening, which clearly did happen. And then the calendar keeps moving on, and then you see 2 fingers. He says that, this could be God or Jesus or an angel's, very very odd. You don't see a person's face. He just remembers in this very vivid dream 2 fingers double tapping anytime there was going to be something bad happening in a certain month. And then the next month is in June. And guess what happened in June? All of a sudden, he starts seeing these crazy visions of places being broken into and police everywhere and anger and just hatred, people breaking into stores, the looting, the rioting, the protesting, all things that have happened, which is crazy. Now, one other dream he had that was all part of this 2-part, now 3-part dream was that there was going to be a shortage of change, which did happen. I thought that one was just very, very, very odd. And fast forward, the next time he has all this very vivid dream, the fingers are still doing this, and it's going all the way to the month of September. And that's when a lot more bad things happen. It looked like more rioting and looting, just a lot of negativity and a lot of destruction happening in the month of September. And then the final one, instead of having 2 fingers tap on the calendar, there is a fist that basically busts through the calendar. And he says the calendar almost was like shattering in like 3D pieces into his face, where it was just very vivid. And that would be the month of November, ironically, election time, right? And in that time, this literally country is on fire. Washington, D.C. is on fire. He says he sees all kinds of military, including military from Russia and China, like other countries are coming in here. He said it was just absolute chaos, driven very much so by fear and a lot of death, a lot of destruction, just complete, absolute chaos. Now, someone had sent me that video, and I watched it. And it hit me pretty hard. If you haven't seen it yet, I do encourage you to watch it. I do encourage you to not use it to be fearful at all. And I'm going to share with you why here as well. But it is good to see what is out there. And this guy did have dreams. I know God has used dreams, and he has used certain people in the past to share things like this, and this certainly did go viral, but just because it's very, very odd that his first 2 dreams almost came 100% true, many months later. So that part is obviously quite eerie, and he has apparently documented that who he shared that with, and the people have attested that he did share all of these dreams with them back in December and in January. So all that being said, the thing is scary. So I ended up going to his YouTube channel to see what else he had. And one of the next videos was one of his latest dreams, and it was about these wolves that were basically coming in and being sent out across America, basically just to disrupt and cause more fear. And these wolves had these bright red eyes, and they were evil. They were gnawing on people's legs. And why this really hit me so hard. Like, I started getting like legit crazy goosebumps all over my body. If you guys don't know about my book, The Chair, it came out on March the 6th, my brother's 35th birthday. And it was a book based on my brother Daniel. It's a fictional book, and it's where Daniel essentially, saves the world. My brother Daniel's in a wheelchair and has to overcome a lot of fears. And I wrote the book way back in 2018 was the first time I essentially wrote it. I went to a publisher in New York. I'm sorry, not a publisher, an editor in New York, and I told her flat out, I was like, this is a special book. It's not meant to make money. This is really just really just a gift to my brother Daniel. It's something that I promised him, and I want this to be really, really special. And I want you to tell me, Mrs. Editor, if this book is a home run or not. Is this great? And I didn't hear back from her for a while. And, I'm kind of like, oh, great, man, she must really hate this thing. And so I'm kind of a little nervous, and I reached out to her. She's like, yeah, I've been through it now twice, and I want to chat with you about it. Long story short, she told me it was good, but not great. And it was like a gut punch. It's something I worked on forever. But at the same point, I asked her for candid feedback, and she gave it to me, and it only made me try harder to get a better story. And so I sat on it. I actually didn't rewrite anything for a solid 6 months. So now we're into 2019, and I just started praying on it. I was like, God, just start giving me some visions, some dreams of how I can make this book better. And for those of you that have read the book, I know a lot of you bought it on Amazon. It's kind of eerie what's happening right now, right? Because guess what? I talk about cities being on fire and all the politics involved, and all the hate involved, and all that entitlement, that there were a lot of people of different races who felt like they were left out and kind of getting screwed, by society and by the government. And everyone was essentially saying yeah to a government handout, and let's just let the government have full control. So here's the crazy part. My very first version of the book, none of that stuff was in there. The entire book took place underground in this kind of fantasy world. And I started having these visions at nighttime. My wife can tell you, I would wake up 3:30. It was usually around 3 or 3:30, which is really odd. I would wake up with just this vivid dream that I had, and I would start getting my phone out, which she hated, and because it has all light on it, obviously. And she would usually wake up saying, put the thing down. And I would just write some notes of what that vision was. And that's how I basically rewrote the book in 30 days. Just every day, little visions were coming to me. And one was this incredibly clear vision. And I spell it out in the book. I mean, if you read the book, it literally spells out exactly what it was eerily similar to what this Dana talked about, where there were, buildings on fire. Washington, D.C. was on fire. Most of the major cities I talk about, Detroit, Chicago, Atlanta, these cities were literally on fire, that all of the capitals and all the government buildings were literally burning, and people were throwing, little handmade bombs and rocks and stuff into them. It was literally chaos. And then the other really crazy part of this vision was the wolf. I have a wolf named Natas, which is Satan spelled backwards. A lot of you probably that have read it might not even have known that, but the wolf's name is Satan spelled backwards. And these wolves were there 100% to create fear and panic on anyone that came into this area of the force that needed to get to the other world. And they had these bright red bloodshot eyes, exactly how Dana was explaining it in his dream. And that's when I started getting these crazy goosebumps. It's like, man, this is just so weird that this guy had eerily similar, dreams to me. I didn't obviously have the whole calendar and the fingers tapping on certain months, but all of this stuff was published in a book that had all been written in 2019 as well. And then, actually went to Amazon.com on March the 6th of 2020, right when all this stuff was starting to happen. And a few people have read it and have said, man, it's very, very eerie how much your book is lining up to what's happening right now. And I'm not taking any credit for that. It was not a prophecy at all, but it was very odd that everything in that book was a vision I too had at nighttime. And so I tell you all that, one, to say it got me thinking a lot. And I really started thinking a whole lot about the past. And in my past life, if you don't know what I did before Salt Strong, I was in the financial services industry. And one thing I really loved doing was studying books about the history of really just wealth. And what I mean by that is the history of everything from the stock market to even wealth of any country, way before there was, public trading floors and stocks and stuff going, going back and forth with publicly traded companies. There's always been wealth of countries. Sometimes it was measured in crops, right? Sometimes it was measured in dollars or imports and exports, et cetera. And in history, there is a thing called cycles, right? And I'm sure that's not news to you. But what might be news to you is that you can go back in history and almost pinpoint exactly when there should be a recession or a big, bull market. It was almost to the T. And I'll just give you the general guidelines. And there's multiple books I've read on this. And the general guidelines were that let's just say it's 80 years. It's based on the average life expectancy of a person. So if 1,000 years ago, the average life expectancy of a person was only 44 years, it was about every 44 years, there would be some type of a reset. And I'm not talking about just the jubilee, like a debt reset. I'm just talking, and sometimes it was a case, but I'm just talking about in general, there would be a reset. And it was usually caused by a war. It was usually caused by something really, really bad had to have happened. It could have been, and let's just take crops I mentioned earlier, where the entire lands or entire civilization, crops and cattle were all just wiped out by, a crazy flood or a drought or something just nuts that couldn't have been predicted happen. And it was very odd. It was like every 45 years, whatever their life expectancy was about that time that things would have a reset. And it was very, very predictable and very, very eerie when you look back in history. Well, today the same thing has been happening. And now, of course, the average life expectancy of a person, at least here in America, is getting close to around 80 years old. And, what happened 80 years ago or approximately 80 years ago? Some of this stuff can get delayed, pushed forward or backward if there is some stimulus, which, we have basically created and papered over a lot of money, so it possibly pushed it back. But guess what? 80 or so years ago, there was a World War II. And prior to that, almost exactly 80 years, like 78 years or something, was a little thing called the Civil War. And approximately 80 years before that was the Revolutionary War. And if you just keep going back, and then it gets slimmer and slimmer as life expectancy gets a little bit worse and worse based on the history of how long people were living, it is crazy eerie how often there was usually some type of a war. In this case, we had World War II, we had Civil War and Revolutionary War that caused literally a financial reset. And also a reset of people and love and hatred. It was a time where we almost were forced to get along. And a lot of people in that old financial services world, they would have said that, 2011 2009 could have been it. They thought that was kind of the rock bottom. And there's also another group of people that would argue that was supposed to be the rock bottom, but we never let it happen, meaning instead of letting the banks and everyone fail like we probably should have done, we just boosted it up with fake money, and we just continue to keep putting debt over debt over debt, which we know will catch up to us at some point. No one knows when, but at some point we'll catch up. And so there are also people that have said, hey, we never were able to actually hit a rock bottom. We never had a true reset because we didn't let it happen. That instead we were so fearful of having a reset that we just started printing money off and did everything possible, humanly possible, literally, to make sure we didn't hit a rock bottom, even though it might have felt like rock bottom to a lot of people, including me, who lost a lot. But we never actually hit a rock bottom. It was a false low, and we've just been papering over it. And maybe that is one reason that things do kind of feel so bad and just kind of shaky and just fear-based, right? I mean, even everything from the stock market to just going out in general to this COVID. I mean, everything is just so fear-based and just so uncertain, which is never a fun time. And so I personally do believe that we are going to have some type of reset over the next 6 months to, it could take a couple of years just because of the fiscal policies we have here in the Federal Reserve being able to essentially print money that's not backed by gold. Who knows what will happen? But I really do believe that part of what Dana has said is true and could come true, and that could even be some type of a war, even a civil war. I don't know, and I'm praying that doesn't happen, but history tells me that it will. And it's just a matter of what it might look like. And that part, it is scary. And that part is scary for me as a father and a business owner and a husband and a Christian. It's super, super scary. So I tell you that first and foremost to not as a warning, but just to say I would be prepared. Whatever that might mean to you, I don't think that you necessarily have to go out and buy years worth of guns and ammo and food, like Dana said. But if that's what you feel like you're called to do, then so be it. But here's the exciting part. Looking back in history, every one of those resets, the World War II, as horrible as that was, World War II ended up being a great thing for America, meaning, that was when the greatest generation came from that. That was when we built such a great foundation back in that time. That was when we did wipe out debt. I mean, a lot of really good things did come from that. The same with the Revolutionary War and the same with the Civil War. Every time, and listen to my past few podcasts, right? We're literally preaching the same thing, that the only way to really gain and to grow is to go through some kind of downtime. That usually, if God is putting some type of what feels like just rock bottom, like you're in a rut into your life, it usually always means there's something amazing on the other side. And he's using the downturns and the negativities and the rock bottom feeling. He's using just the times that feel horrible or nothing is going right and we're scared to death. He's using that to help you as a person grow. He uses it to help a nation grow. And so I truly believe that we are going to go through some scary times, that if we think we've seen anything yet, it ain't even close. And at some point here in the next probably 6 to 12 months, whether it's before or after the election, I don't think it really matters, but I have just an eerie feeling from everything I've read and even just some of my own personal dreams and beliefs that there will be some type of a reset here in the near future, and it will be an amazing ultimate result after it's all said and done. That it will be the reset that our country needs. It'll be the reset that we need. It'll enable us to start loving again and to be united again, which we haven't been really since 9/11 was the last time I truly believe that we all came together as a country, regardless of skin color, regardless if you were Republican or Democrat, regardless if you're Christian, Muslim. It didn't matter. We were all together. We were all waving that American flag. We were proud to be Americans, and we were angry. And that was the last time. It was almost like a warning, like God was giving us a quick little warning to say, all right, guys, here's your chance. Let's start uniting. And what have we done ever since then? We've just hated each other, right? I mean, it's sickening how much hate is out there. I'm not even talking about racial stuff. I'm talking about just hate within families and hate within friends, and even like in fishing groups. I mean, people are hating and belittling and starting fights. I mean, there's people who were in this literally same family unit who won't talk to each other because they don't 100% agree on this presidential stuff or politics. I mean, there is just there's so much hate out there and so much animosity and so much disharmony and people not being united that I truly do believe, as much as I don't want to see half of the stock market be erased or half of my wealth disappear, I truly do want to have a reset. I know it will put us as a country, as my family unit, is the ability for us to truly grow and to give our kids an amazing opportunity to thrive and be in a place that is loving and has a lot of opportunities and is certainly united. Once again, that we do need some type of reset. So I believe that is going to be the great news that comes from this. And I would just say, prepare and pray. I was in a meeting at C12, and I've mentioned that before here a few times. It's a Christian, I call it my Christian mastermind group, but it's a bunch of Christian leaders. And a new gentleman had shown up that I'd never met before. He was a guest that day, and he said something. The whole way I was just kind of praying about this, and I was like, man, what's happening in this world right now? It's just crazy times. And he said 2 words, or really 3 words, I guess, if you count the "and," but it stuck with me. As soon as he said it, I actually felt compelled to just write it down. I've been thinking about it ever since. And it wasn't even about this. He just said the phrase "save and store." He's like, save and store. And I was like, wow, that's what we probably all need to be doing right now is saving and storing, I would say. And that I'm not talking about ammo. I'm talking about everything from money, just being smart with that. I would not go make monster investments right now personally. And it's probably just great advice anytime you're in the middle of an election year like this. But with just all the animosity and all the craziness, I would say save and store. I think you'll thank me later. And once again, I hope this guy Dana is way wrong. I hope some of the visions that I had were way wrong, but my gut tells me they're not. And my gut tells me, just based on history and the fact that I don't think 2009 was that official reset, because we never let it happen, that we're due, that there's something is going to happen. And I pray it happens and goes by fast. It'll be one of those blips in history that enables us to finally reset and to love one another and to finally become united. Guys, I love you so much. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I know I'm not trying to say I'm right, and this is certainly not a sermon. It's just my gut reaction, and also my reaction based on all the things I've read about just history in general. And I'd love your thoughts, whether you agree or disagree or have anything to add to it. Joe@saltstrong.com. I would love to hear from you. Peace. I'm out.
'Cause fishing, it's in my soul. It was passed down to me from the days of old. Find us on the water if there was a way. It's been said my papa, he wrote the book on catching big reds and 20-pound snook. I wish I knew all the things he knew today. For he's the reason why we are this way. And he put fishing in our soul.